beautiful weather down here on the south coast at the 2025 Yamaha WR250F launch, and you know, I got to say one of the kind of cool things about getting older is you get to see things in context. You know, where they've come from and sort of how they got there, and you know, this iteration of the you know, Yamaha's quarter litre enduro flagship are just an amazing little thing. With AJ Roberts, the ShopYamaha race team manager, ISTE team manager, etc., former 3-time AORC champ. But talking with AJ, because you know, last night we had the tech presentation, and AJ, you've obviously got a really good insight into the bike's development. You know, you've dealt with Japan, you've dealt with actually a lot of that R&D team around the world. Just sort of tell us real quick. You said, I think when we came back from a ride, man, that thing's good. You're like, this is a really fun bike to develop.
Yeah, I mean, the platform makes it easy, in my opinion, for us to evolve it to what it is. I think the Japanese have done a very good job at putting it all together, giving our group something that was quite, in my mind, simple to work with. There's a large window on the 250 in terms of what you can achieve on it, whether it's hill climbs, grass track, motocross track, you know, wet creek crossings. All of that terrain seems to be quite adaptable on this bike. Yet with a 6-speed gearbox, you can idle down the road and cruise and not be buzzing its head off. Yeah. So it's a very good package. It's a big part of our enduro heritage in Australia. It's won a lot of championships for us since the early 2000s. So it's been a pleasure being a part of its progress.
Well, that's the thing. We can go into more detail, I guess, and we will in some of the stories on the website. But you know, 2001, the first one that ever came out. You know, Ballard, Peter Payne, Stephen Cottrell, Ben Grabham, who's here today, Glenn Carney, and then you know, you rattle off a bunch of names, whether it's Milner, Carney, Damien Smith. All those guys have won championships on this thing. But it's a pretty cool thing because we sell more of these WRs here in Australia, about 1,500 a year. They get estimating compared to say 1,000 in Europe. Now, I think they're only estimating 300 in America because they sell all the cross-country model, the FX. But yeah, we spoke, what was it, back in February at the 450 launch, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of very similar things with this 25 model, 250, right? Narrower shrouds, the philosophy of the, you know, lowered suspension, more agility, slimmer. Just take us through that. If you, in your mind, the top line, what does this bike kind of represent in terms of, you know, how it differs from its predecessor, I guess?
Well, I guess it starts from taking in information from the predecessor, where we're at with it, the pros and cons of it, and trying to achieve the goal of making progress going forward. So, you know, we've improved the starting. We worked hard on that. I don't think many people had any issues with that.
Like starting in gear or hot?
In gear, hot, cold, all of those things. We worked really hard on achieving those goals. You know, one of the things was in tough conditions, do we look at going a shorter suspension travel to make it easier for riders to touch the ground in bad conditions and getting on and off and things like that. So all of those things are looked at. They don't ignore it. There is a process. Sometimes it can be a slow process, but I feel like the company is moving forward in a really good way and taking on the opinions from around the world, not just from Australia. Where it differs for Australia is the WR gets a little bit more of an Aussie influence because it is big to our market, where the Americans have obviously a big imprint on the FX range.
Yeah.
You know, so
they got those crazy green label laws, and the mapping is terrible, right?
They got different terrains. They love the fact that they have that motocross heritage over there. They love that. It's a big part of what Yamaha is. So yeah.
But I think that, you know, the slogans last night, I think it was, you know, lighter, slimmer, and centre of gravity. You know, lower centre of gravity. They're the sort of three kind of, you know, hallmarks of this bike, I guess. So we were saying exactly the same thing with the 2024 450. Which same as this, followed a year after the motocross that saw all those kind of mods. But this, you probably say, because the 450 had an all-new platform engine, right? Completely new, more compact engine, diaphragm, clutch, all that. This doesn't. This gets some inlet changes to the engine, but it gets all that chassis suspension concept that we saw on the 450 a year ago, right?
Yeah, so this is where it's a bit modular, I guess. So, you know, the platform itself is very much crossed from motocross to WR450 now to WR250. So, you know, they'll change things to suit the dynamics of the engine. Things like suspension package, engine mounts, ECU mapping, all of those things are to work with this engine in this chassis.
Yeah.
And as you felt today, it's so predictable. It's so confidence inspiring.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just super fun and versatile.
On paper, you'd probably say that the 250 is closer to its motocross cousin than the 450 is to its motocross cousin, right? I'm talking about WRs. Which
No,
on paper, but in reality, what I'm saying is the changes to enduro-wise, this bike have.
It's a lot of the same concepts where we're amalgamating what is this into this environment. So we're changing gearbox ratios. We're running lights now. So the lights are run through the ECU program. So it's integrating everything that they learn from the technologies of motocross and road racing and all of that. Then they start with their premier motocross platform and it works through the paddock. And this is where we're at with this bike, and it takes a lot of work from a lot of departments.
Yeah.
But the communication seems to be across all departments, and we're reaping the rewards of that.
The most obvious thing when you get off it, 50 millimetres thinner through the shrouds there, which when you're sitting down and going side to side is just mind-bogglingly different. But in your mind, I remember, obviously a racer, you still ride a hell of a lot, you test a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
If someone's, riding the predecessor of this, what's the first thing or what did you notice when you got on this in terms of being a departure or an improvement on the predecessor?
So there's an instant feeling of lightness with the bike compared to the older platform. So there's a massive improvement on that agility in the bike, but as you know, super stable.
Yeah.
Big downhills today, big uphills, big washouts, super stable. So they've done their homework with the whole package.
And also everything a little bit lower. Some of this stuff we did down in the creek, the pebbles, where you need a foot.
Yeah, you got to touch the ground.
Yeah.
So that was a criteria that we were asked to meet. Like, hey, can we achieve the handling we need with a lower, ground level? And we did.
I guess lastly, mate, an experience like this, you get a bunch of journos out, like we luck into some absolutely prime conditions, but, just for you, that process of developing it, like as you say, it takes a really good communication channel to everyone listening to everybody to sort of move forward methodically. But how is it when you come to an event like this and get a bunch of journos? Like, I think I came back to you and said, one of the best trail rides ever,
It's ultra intimidating because you can only hope that everything you've done as a group is the right direction. So you're sitting there just, like, which way is it going to go? Because you're just
you
hoping
have to be
that
pretty confident coming in, right?
Yeah, but everyone's we've got such a vast different level of rider here. But, there's a lot of adjustments that can be made, and it's quite easy to make it adaptable to everyone. And I think everyone has found that the bike is in an excellent position.
Funny, when we were doing bugger all people doing any adjustments, I think the 6'3" guys moving bars forward, but that's about it. I didn't see the clickers are now hand clickers, but no one to muck around and stuff all day.
I don't think we've changed the sag for anyone.
So intimidating, but also gratifying when you hear positive feedback.
Yeah, you want the positive feedback, obviously, and it's one of those things where, like I said, you're looking at the old bike and what we need to improve, and I think we've taken big steps at that with this platform.
Yeah.
And we've achieved those goals.
Mate, it's awesome having you here. I think one of the guys asked me a little earlier, what do you think the Yami launches? And I said back in the day they were a bit buttoned down and corporate, and now they're kind of pretty, I don't want to say, just like they're imparting information in an informal but really effective way. So it was...
as a community, we're small. This is probably your 100th Yamaha launch, so it's a little bit easier to be a little more informal. Because of the relationships we have in our small community, but at the same time we want to be as professional as we can with the outcome of the bike, and I hope we've achieved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Bloody impressive, mate. It's been a while since, a couple of years since I've ridden a 250, and I think back then I said it had that traditional stability you talked about with a dose of agility, and I think this thing's just amplify that comment, all over again. So hey, awesome to be here, mate. Thanks very much for having you on hand. When a couple of things were above, a couple of technical questions were above Sean Hawker's Goldhawk's pay grade. It was great to have you on hand.
Yeah, I just, it's a privilege to be able to have some say and a contribution to it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good on you, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, thanks.